alternatives to oil so that we can once and for all break the addiction to oil that we suffer from and the monopoly we have for the oil and gas industry when we pull up to the pump. And while we're doing that, we use the new scientific technologies to make our cars that do run on oil, which are going to do for decades because that is the dominant fuel force and will be for a decade or two, that we use cars that are most efficient. That is the fundamental two tracks that we were on. I would want to suggest the second track is the preferred one for two reasons. One, if you look at what can actually deliver for the American people. We know one thing cannot deliver, and we know one thing that can deliver. We know one thing that cannot deliver, which is relying exclusively on domestic drilling. The reason we know that is that the dinosaurs, for a reason that escape all of us, decided to go die under somebody else's sand. The oil is not here. There are more dinosaur theme parks as a percentage of theme parks in the world than there are oil reserves in our domestic country relative to world oil reserves. Now, this isn't a theory or a hypothesis or democratic communist thought. It is a simple fact of geology. We have 25% of the world's usage, and we have 3% or less of all the reserves. If you drill, this is according to George Bush's administration, if you drill in Yellowstone, Mount Rainier, and the South Lawn of the White House, you will not increase world oil reserves by more than 1%, and it will take you a decade to do it. That route is doomed to failure to have any significant restraint on oil prices, any significant increase in our oil independence, or any reduction of global warming gases. There is another route that is capable of success. The first is to do the obvious things, which are to manufacture cars that use existing oil drivetrains that are more efficient. Talked to Jimmy Carter a couple years ago about this, and he pointed out something I thought was kind of interesting. Talk about lost opportunities. If we had simply continued the rate of increase of gas mileage we were having from 1976 to 1982, if we simply had continued the path we were on, we would be free of Saudi Arabia oil today. Now, if we would have drilled in Mount Rainier National Park and the South Lawn and the White House, we would still be addicted to Saudi Arabia oil today. But if we had simply had CAFE standards during that period of time, we would have been free from Saudi Arabia oil today. That's number one. But second, and more importantly, and we'll hear some testimony from Shai Agassi and others here today about the possibilities and I believe probabilities that within the next decade or two, Americans will be freed from the addiction to oil with the new technologies. Anybody want to know this and question me, go up to Waterton, Massachusetts, and talk to the A123 battery company that I did that's going to provide the battery for the Chevrolet Volt. And if anybody doesn't think Chevrolet is serious about that, read the article in Atlantic Monthly. And if anybody doesn't think there's advanced biofuels that are possible in this, go talk to the venture capitalists that just put $50 million into the Sapphire Energy Company to produce gasoline, ATSM certified gasoline from algae without feeding it any sugar whatsoever, simply using photosynthesis. So we simply suggest on this side that when President Bush said 2 years ago in a stunning statement for a Texas oil man, he said, "We are addicted to oil." It was good for him to say that. It was not so hot when last week he came out and said, "And my fellow citizens, since we are addicted to oil, let's get more addicted. Let's go back and ask the pusher for just one more needle, and that's going to solve our problem." We think bolder on this side of this aisle. We think a bolder vision that ought to break this monopoly and give Americans a choice. When we do that, prices are going to come down, and we're going to be more secure, and we're going to have a chance to beat global warming. That's the future we ought to have. I yield back whatever chance. Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm delighted to be here at this hearing as